Hello friends. So when you first open Photoshop, it's probably going to get you to try and do some tutorial-y business. But once that is through, once you've clicked through next, it should look like this, okay? So the first thing I'm going to have you do is set up your file for your self-portrait project, okay? We are doing this obviously completely digitally, but let's assume that in real life we would want to print this out someday. So we are going to set this up so it prints out on a regular piece of paper, sized piece of paper, okay? So you're going to go to this Create New button. Create New. Oops. Let's move this box right over here. Okay, so when you start something new, it's going to have this default Photoshop size. We're going to actually go to this tab up here at the top which says Print, okay? Because we're going to talk about pieces of paper, right? The piece of paper we're going to use is this letter-sized piece of paper because that's your 8.5 by 11 sheet, and you can see that over here on this side. Resolution, pixels per inch, right? That's how many little dots are going to go in every inch when you print it out. For our purposes, we don't need it to be super high res. And we also don't know how high resolution any of the pictures that you found are. So I'm going to say this resolution, instead of being 300, can be like half of that. So let's do 150. So that'll be a slightly smaller file, which might be easier on your computers. And the other thing I'd like to do is change the orientation to horizontal, since that's how most of our screens are wider than they are tall. So instead of looking at the page like this, we're looking at it like that. And that's all that we're going to do in this setup, okay? So you're going to say create. Once it does that, it has now created a canvas for you inside of Photoshop. The next thing that is super important to do is to go to the File menu and let's save it, right? And it's going to be like, where do you want to save it? In the cloud or on your computer? And I want to save it on my computer. And then I'm going to put it into the folder, not that Adobe selects for me, but the folder on my desktop that says Digital Rendering Class Self-Portrait. And I'm going to call it Lily Self-Portrait. And we'll just call it that for now. If we do multiple versions, then we might want to save a different version with the date. But for today, we can just call this Lily Self-Portrait and click Save. Yeah, you can have that access Photoshop, no problem. All right, cool. So that is your file setup. That's step one, okay? So go ahead and get your file set up like this, and then you'll go to the next video and begin bringing in the images that you collected.